All right. Well, welcome everybody. This is Tim McDonald coming to you with another episode of Advocacy at Work. And today I have a very special guest, Lindsay. How are you doing, Lindsay?
I'm great. Thanks for having me here. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. I can't wait for our conversation here. I'm sure you're going to have so much to share with us. But before we get started, why don't you just kind of introduce yourself to all of us and tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. And thanks again for having me. I'm excited to be here, and thanks for all that you do. My name is Lindsay. I live in New York City, and in the end of 2021, I was diagnosed with a very rare form of appendix cancer called lamin. And now I'm about 4 years out, and I spend a lot of my time advocating for the rare cancer community and helping other appendix cancer patients navigate their way through this, what could be lonely diagnosis.
Yeah, and actually that's how I found Lindsay, was on LinkedIn, because she had been posting, well, I think it was the organization that posted about you being in DC not too long ago. So I can't wait to dive in here a little bit more. But before we get started too far into your story, why don't you define, just as a baseline for everybody to understand, when we talk about advocacy, what does advocacy mean to you?
Sure. So it has a dual meaning for me. If you would have asked me this a few years ago, right after my diagnosis, I became very passionate about advocacy, meaning self-advocacy and trusting your body, listening to your body, and being confident and feeling empowered to push back on doctors and really fight for answers. And that's really because if I had listened to doctors who were just downplaying all of my symptoms, I would have either been misdiagnosed or diagnosed too late for any kind of treatment. So that's part one of advocacy for me. But part two is spreading awareness about this disease. So advocacy to me is telling as many people as I can that appendix cancer is a thing, that it exists, that these are the symptoms to look for. I very strongly believe that appendix cancer is not as rare as the numbers show. The numbers are skewed, in my opinion, because people are either misdiagnosed or they're diagnosed when it's too late for treatment, or it's just simply overlooked. So I think it is extremely important that we teach as many people, whether it's doctors or patients, about appendix cancer, so that when they have these weird symptoms or when they go in for their appendix rupturing or an ovarian cyst or a hernia, that they know what questions to ask about next steps and what this could have been. So those are the two meanings of advocacy for me.
No, I love that. And I think all of us who have been in this space for a while have always seen our definitions change over the time from when we were first diagnosed to where we are today. So I love that you brought that up, the two definitions that you've had of it. So, but I'd really like to go back to, like what happened? I mean, how did you end up finding out that you had appendix cancer?
Yeah, so I, for years, pretty much as long as I remember, had very bad menstrual cycles. My periods were always heavy and I would get bloated and very bad cramps, things like that. But as I got older, it got worse and worse to a point where I knew something was not right. I actually thought I had endometriosis. So I was on this mission to prove to my doctors that I had endometriosis and we need to do something about it. And what happened was the doctors just kept giving me birth control and saying, it's normal, you're a woman, you have periods, some are worse than others, take this birth control, take Advil, take Aleve, and just have that Bandaid. And then a few years ago, I had a new gynecologist and I went to her and I gave her my whole spiel about how things are getting worse. And I'm taking days off of work because I'm in so much pain and I'm so bloated and I have to pee all the time. I don't understand why I always have this urge to go to the bathroom. And her response still was, you should go on birth control. But she suggested an IUD. And she said, the next step for an IUD would be an ultrasound to see where the placement would go. So I had a light bulb moment and I said, great. I want the IUD only because I wanted the ultrasound, because I knew something was wrong with me, that something was different in my body than usual. So went in for the ultrasound. And then again, I thought they were going to find something like endometriosis. I don't know if you can even find that in an ultrasound, but I knew they were going to find something. Didn't think it was going to be this serious. And of course, I got a call from the doctors after that saying, we found an ovarian cyst. We want you to get an MRI. Got an MRI. those results came back saying you have a huge ovarian cyst. It's called a complex ovarian cyst, and that has to do with the shape of it. And it had like bumps on it and crevices, and it needs to be removed. And I remember they said it's not an emergency to remove it, but it is urgent. So, go about with, I was just training for my 4th marathon. Literally, I had the MRI the Friday before the marathon that Sunday. And then I found this out the following week. So I figured, let me figure out who's going to remove this. I understand now I need to have this removed. I thought all women get cysts. This is a normal thing. I'll be in and out. And my primary care doctor said I had to meet with a GYN oncologist. And I thought, that's ridiculous. It's a cyst. I don't need to go to an oncologist to remove it. So at first I did not go to her. I went to another doctor that I found. He was a gynecologist who specializes in removing ovarian cysts, and went to him and he said, yeah, it'll be easy procedure. We'll remove it. You'll be in and out. So then I figured, let me just go to this woman who my doctor recommended, just as a second opinion, just to make sure, just so I could say I covered all bases and go back to Dr. George and say, I went to who you sent me to. And sure enough, that day, it was the total opposite of what I would have ever expected. She looked at the MRI results. She was in shock that I had such a large cyst inside of me. She actually couldn't believe that I had just ran a marathon. She came back in the room after our appointment twice to say, I really can't believe that you did all of that training and ran a marathon with something that big inside of you. That's really impressive. And that it didn't burst or anything. And she said it did need to be removed, that it was going to be a little more invasive than the surgery that this other guy had talked about. And she had mentioned it could possibly be ovarian cancer, but she said, don't even worry about that right now. Just worry about the surgery. This is your first ever surgery. Let's get you through that. And she was great, like really, really made me feel comfortable. And so then a few weeks later, I went in for the surgery, and she discovered it was laparoscopic, and while she was inside, she discovered that my abdominal cavity was filled with this jelly-like substance that was coming from my appendix, and my appendix was swollen and just a weird size. So she removed the cyst, and she had to remove my ovary with it because it was just all covered in this gunk. And she removed as much of that mucin that she could and my appendix. And she said, don't worry about it. But, we'll send it out for pathology. The immediate pathology came back, not ovarian cancer. So I was happy. It was like, no big deal. It's probably some kind of food sensitivity, whatever. Because clearly I don't know much about this stuff. And then a week later, when I was supposed to have my follow-up appointment with her PA, she called and she said, I would actually like to see you. So could we change the appointment? And that's when I knew something was wrong, and went to her office with both my parents. And that's when she explained, you have this very rare appendix cancer that none of us had heard of. And she, in her words, she said, I highly recommend that you get as many second opinions as you can, because this is so rare. You want to really make sure that you're going to the right doctor for it. She recommended I meet with one of her partners at that hospital who specializes in this, but she really encouraged me to meet with as many people as I could to make sure that I was getting the treatment that I needed and understanding the treatment that I needed. So that's how I got to finding out that I had appendix cancer.
Wow. I mean, it really just demonstrates the point of one of your first definitions about really advocating for yourself and your healthcare, right. And really pushing to do that. Right. And
exactly.
And getting to that point.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm kind of curious, like, about your advocacy definition too.
Yeah.
How did you, or when did you take it from getting that diagnosis to deciding that, or maybe you didn't decide, maybe you just fell into it, getting involved in advocating and creating awareness for others? Yeah,
so I got very involved with an organization called PMP Pals, which is a volunteer-run global, it's actually the oldest organization that provides support for appendix cancer patients and caregivers and related peritoneal diseases. After being part of this group for a while, I joined it for support, and then I became a volunteer, and I got to know more patients. And that's when I learned how many people are misdiagnosed or are overlooked, because week after week we have these support group calls and people would call in saying, I just got diagnosed, and their story would be very similar to mine. They had an ovarian cyst removed years ago, and then they had all these issues recently. And when they got to the bottom of it, it was that their belly was filled with mucin, and it was coming from these cells that were left there from when they had their ovarian cyst removed years ago, and the proper pathology wasn't run on those biopsies. So I heard so many stories. People who had their appendix removed also years ago are then diagnosed with appendix cancer years later because the doctor that removed it didn't know to do that pathology. So after hearing these stories over and over, I realized we need to spread awareness about this disease, because the more people that know about it, they'll get diagnosed earlier, and that will translate into saving lives. And I say it all the time, but I think it is more common than the numbers show. I really do. I don't think that this is this one-off weird rare disease. I think that so many people have probably had it and we just never knew.
Yeah, no, I'm just like, it's almost like I'm connecting the dots here from, advocating for yourself,
Yeah,
looking for support, and then turning into helping others
exactly.
and spreading awareness.
Right. And I've learned, I hate to say I'm lucky, because there's nothing lucky or good about having cancer, but I am so lucky that her name is Dr. Villela at Lenox Hill, who removed my cyst, that she knew what appendix cancer was. And she had a hunch. She told my parents after the surgery, I have a hunch what it is. Let's wait until everything comes back. But I hear countless patients coming into our Zooms saying, I had this removed, close me back up. They didn't have that hunch. They didn't know what it was. So it's spreading awareness not only to patients, but to providers also that need to learn what appendix cancer is. And then there's another layer to it, the treatment of it, because the treatment for certain types of appendix cancer is not common, and not all hospitals even offer that treatment. So it's then finding a place that will actually be able to provide that treatment for you. So there's so many levels of this awareness and education that we need to get out there.
And I'm guessing you were not the expert at this when you first got diagnosed.
No, I can't, no, still I'm not, but I know more than I did back then.
So looking at that, just creating awareness, and I know I mentioned at the beginning how I saw the article on LinkedIn about you being in DC with other advocates. It was at your first trip. I mean, how did you kind of take creating this awareness and move it into like getting involved in, I'm assuming you were there for legislative advocacy, like looking for a bill or funding or something, right?
I was actually there it was an event called Living Proof that the Abdominal Cancers Alliance put on. And it was to show that there's life beyond an abdominal cancer diagnosis. And there were several other speakers there. I'd met several advocates there actually who were in the area for those reasons, but I was actually just there to speak at this event and share my story to people who know what appendix cancer is, but to show that there is life beyond it, and that it is our survivors' obligation to spread awareness and do whatever it is we can to help others, to honor those that aren't here, so we can get out there and help others.
Oh, that's just so incredible. And I really, I'm just kind of curious. I know it's been 4 years now, right? Since your diagnosis?
Yeah, I just hit my 4-year mark in March.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on that. And I'm kind of curious, like, where do you see like yourself going? I mean, I know at least for me and so many others I talk to that are in the advocacy space, it's like, even though we might be done with the cancer treatments, it's never going to leave us as far as what we want to do as far as advocacy goes. So I'm just kind of curious, where do you see yourself kind of where you're at now, and where do you see yourself kind of leading to with your advocacy?
Yeah, well, I what you just said really it really resonated, because it's true. This will never go away. I feel like even though I have no evidence of disease, it's always in the back of my mind that it's going to come back. I have to be on surveillance. I'm on watch and wait for the rest of my life. There is a chance it will come back. And so knowing all of that, I'm just trying to flip it. And instead of being worried about it, just continue to try and make a difference. And I've been really involved with helping other patients. I actually just joined the board for PMP PALS. So I hope that we can, continue working on their mission to spread awareness and help others and just build a community of patients and caregivers to help share information and support each other. And fundraising. I think it's really, really important that we support research. There's not many clinical trials available, and we need to help change that. And I don't know what that looks. I know there's a trial that I've been hearing about since I first got diagnosed. There's something called Bromac, which is an enzyme in pineapples, and there's a trial. They've done it in Australia, and it worked. If they, I was going to say shoot it. That's not the right word, but if they insert it directly into your abdominal cavity and spray it onto mucin, it has been known to help, I guess, disintegrate the mucin. So they've been trying to create this trial here, and it's just hasn't gotten approved. And it's been years. They're ready to go. So, I don't know what it looks like to help with something like that, but I would love to get on board with them and help figure out how do we push these trials through. And the trials, it's interesting because I see the trials in this siloed lens where I know so many patients that they need the trials now because they've tried everything. And this is the only hope they have, but it's a bigger picture. These trials are actually going to help people in the future. So it's not just about getting that guy in now to save his life. It's saving lives after. So we really need to get going on that.
Yes, well, in my book, From Patient to Advocate, I write about the 4 different types of advocacy that I feel like everything kind of rolls up into, and I think you've touched on all 4 now. So we have the creating awareness, we have legislative, we have research advocacy, and then we have fundraising. And I think everything else kind of funnels into one of those 4 buckets. I'm not saying they're 100%, but and I love that you mentioned on fundraising. I love that you mentioned on on your awareness, and what you're talking about now is what I would term research advocacy, which I am very passionate about myself. And for the same exact reasons that you say, it just helps so many more people long term, not only helping for the short term, but also for the long term for more people. So definitely would love to connect with you on that.
We really
afterwards
should.
About the research. And even though it's a different disease space, I know there's a lot of great information in the colorectal cancer space that I'm aware of that really defines like what clinical trials are and how they move through the process, and really just gives you a basic education of the whole why research is so important and why the patient voice in research is so important all the way through the process. So sorry, we can get off on a whole tangent on that.
We'll schedule another call for that.
But no, I really love this story. But if you don't mind, why don't we just take a couple minutes and have some fun with some questions that I have, just to get to know you as a person instead of talking about our cancers and advocacy. Okay, so if you're ready, what is your favorite color?
That changes often, actually, but I'll say right now I'm on a very blue-green kick. So something that falls in between the blue-green, almost like my background, something like that is.
Well, as a liver transplant patient, and the donate life colors are blue and green, and colorectal blue, I am definitely I am a big fan of those 2 colors.
Maybe I should have said amber because that's the color for appendix cancer, but that's not in my rotation of favorites at the moment.
And what is your favorite band or musician?
I have a lot, actually. Music has been really, really important to me my whole life. Back in the day, I would say an all-time favorite is 311. I don't know if you are familiar with them. More recently, I've been very into Rufus Du Sol. They got me through a lot of my cancer stuff. But that's actually a loaded question for me because I can't say this is my one all-time favorite. Music is really important to me.
Well, that's great. We got 2 from you, so that'll be good. And what is one place that you've always wanted to visit but haven't yet?
So one is Portugal, where I'm going in 2, which I'm going in 2 weeks. That would be my answer. But since I'm going, I would say I've recently been really interested in going to Ireland and Scotland and just doing a trip where we're hiking and just really getting into nature there. That just sounds really beautiful to me.
Oh, that sounds nice. Yeah, I have not been there myself, but obviously, I have just returned from Portugal about a couple weeks ago. So, and the final question is, based upon what you're doing in your advocacy work and where you see yourself maybe going in your advocacy work, if there was one thing without money, time, resources being an object that you would like to do, what would that be?
So I feel like some people might answer this by saying find a cure, but I don't think that that's a thing, Brett. That doesn't even make sense. I feel like you would need magic. If you understand appendix cancer, you would know that you would need more than money to find a cure. So I would say if I had all the resources, it would be to teach everyone about what this is. I don't know if that means paying people to go door to door to everyone, but if you mention something like breast cancer, everyone knows what breast cancer is. So how could we take some funding to teach everyone what appendix cancer is? That would be.
No, I love that. I love that story. So, or that goal, because it really is. Sometimes it's not the cure, just, 'cause I think the cure sometimes is with any cancer, it's really catching it early is the best, gives you the best chance.
Right.
And so creating awareness to get screened, know the symptoms, make sure your doctors are aware, those are all very important things to have happen. And I think we both know those do not happen overnight. Right. So, well, this, just great. So I'm just kind of curious, what else do you have coming up with your advocacy work, for the rest of this year?
Yes, I just finished. We had the first ever New York State team in person for the ACPMP 5K. So it's the Appendix Cancer Research Foundation, and their biggest fundraiser every year is a 5K that's in person or virtual. And I volunteered to host it in New York. And I really thought it would just be a small group of my friends and family that would get together and walk, but we had over 60 people come. Our team raised over $15,000 towards their goal. I mean, it was incredible. And I just have to tell a quick story. While we were walking, someone was running in the path that we were walking down, saw our shirts and stopped us and said, "Oh my goodness, my mom has appendix cancer." We had no idea that this organization exists. And so one of my friends we were walking with actually had taken some of the flyers from the start. So she took out all the flyers and said, "Here, take this with your run." And we exchanged numbers. And her mom actually joined one of the PMP Pals support group calls the following week. So that was just an incredible serendipitous moment. So we'll plan that again for next year. And then we're planning PMP Pals has an annual in-person meetup in October. So next couple months is going to be a lot of planning for that and the programming for it. And I'm speaking in 2 weeks there's another incredible organization called the Mike Weber Senior Memorial Foundation, and they raise money for appendix cancer. Mike Weber Senior had appendix cancer and unfortunately passed away. It's 10 years this year, I believe. And they do this huge fundraiser every year out in New Jersey. So I'll be speaking there.
Well, that's fantastic. And if anybody's in the New York, New Jersey area, please check these events out and or get involved and reach out to Lindsay, and I'm sure she can use your help.
Definitely, always.
So how can people, get in touch with you as far as like if they want to learn more about, the PMP Pals, any of the groups that you're involved with, or if you're open, channels that you're open to connecting with people on. Yeah,
so I have an Instagram account that's devoted just to this. It's called When Life Gives You Lamn, LAMN, because that was my pathology. And you could find me there. You could email me it's just Lindsay@pmppals.net. You could find me on the PMP Pals website. And LinkedIn, I'm on, I use LinkedIn, all of that, Facebook. But I'm pretty active on Instagram. That's why I created this separate account, to be more transparent about everything and hope to find others that understand and can relate to it.
Well, Lindsay, thank you so much for being here. And thank you for all you do. And we will make sure that we put all these links in the blog post on advocacyatwork.com. When the episode airs, the video will be there. It will go out to all the podcast players and everything. So people will have all the information easy to get in contact with you. So thank you so much for joining us today on Advocacy at Work.
Thank you.